So I was recently, in fact, just a few minutes ago, asked how did I, as a South Carolinian, end up being a Patriots fan? And that is such a good question. It deserves a full on video answer. And I thought, I answer this often enough that I should do this video not just for the person asking, but for my Facebook page, because I know y'all are going to be interested. So how did I, as a South Carolinian, end up as a Patriots fan and not a Panthers fan or a Washington? Well, I can't say that. The Washington football team fan, given their recent name change. How did I become a Patriots fan? Well, first thing is, especially if you talk to folks who live in South Carolina, they might question the fact that I'm a South Carolinian. They have this thing about being native because they get all these transplants from other places, and I am a transplant. I grew up in Arkansas, but my dad was from Michigan, and in Arkansas, almost everyone is a Cowboys fan. And, during the Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith era, I would root for them. I was glad to see them win, but I was never like a Cowboys fan. I never owned any gear or anything like that. And I cheered for the 49ers growing up because they were good. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice. My dad cheered for the Lions. Enough said about that. And so I kind of grew up without an NFL team. I played the sport. But, if you know me, I just didn't sit down and watch a lot of football games. I was probably more likely practicing my tuba or reading a book or going out and doing something, watching a science show than watching football. And so I didn't really have a team, and I came out to South Carolina. And we settled down. We had some friends in the church, and she grew up in Massachusetts. Her family is from, she grew up in New Hampshire, and her family lives in the New Hampshire, Massachusetts area. And so her whole family are Patriots fans and Celtics fans and Bruins fans and Red Sox fans. And so going over and watching an NFL game with friends, I had no reason to cheer against them. I'm not that guy necessarily, but I will poke at Gamecocks fans and Clemson fans here in South Carolina. I'll always, if I see someone wearing the shirt, I'll say go the opposite team just to see their face, and then they'll say, "Oh, you're a whatever fan." I'm like, "No, I'm Arkansas State Red Wolves fan." But back to the Patriots. So for many years, we moved here in 2001. I was glad to cheer for the Patriots if we were watching the Patriots play, but I wasn't invested. So the real question is, what took me from being a fair weather fan or happy to see him win to invested? And I would say that is one and only the Deflategate. Because as a scientist, I realize what a big bunch of baloney the Deflategate was, and the fact that any ball taken from a warm room into a cold winter air will lose some pressure, because I know the ideal gas law. And so to see Roger Goodell in the NFL try to persecute the greatest of all time quarterback because the ball was a half a pound light, which is exactly where the equation took it to be for the temperature that it was. It really got me fired up. And then to see him come back after that 4-game suspension and win the Super Bowl, I was fired up and I was all in, and I have been all in. And so now the logical question is, am I still a Patriots fan or am I a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan? And of course the answer is I'm still a Patriots fan. Although, unlike many Patriots fans, I've really only cheered for one quarterback my whole entire NFL career. Because, I was glad to watch an NFL game, but I was not an NFL junkie, and I would still not be considered an NFL junkie today. But I've only ever cheered until this year for one quarterback, and that was Tom Brady. So I personally am happy to see Tom Brady be successful. All the luck to him and to Gronk down in Tampa Bay. But my loyalties lie with the Patriots, with Belichick, and now with Cam Newton. Surprise, surprise. So that's my story of how we became on fire Patriots fans. It was because of an act of injustice against one of my friends' teams, and seeing Tom Brady overcome that injustice and come back to win. Wow, that's a good story.